I just want to check my balance. The bank manager laughed until he saw the amount in the mob boss's account. Comment what you thought of this story with a rating from 0 to 10 and tell me what city you're watching from. I really want to know if you like my story and get to know you better, so subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on your help. A light rain was falling on Wall Street that March Tuesday, turning the asphalt into a dark mirror that reflected the lights of the financial district's skyscrapers. Liam O'Connell parked his simple Honda motorcycle in front of Meridian Financial, cut the engine, and spent a few moments watching the stream of executives entering and leaving the mirrored glass building. He sighed deeply, running a hand through his disheveled hair, feeling the weight of another sleepless night spent solving problems no one should ever have to solve. At 38, Liam carried a burden on his shoulders that he had inherited without a choice. Son of Michael O'Connell, the man who for decades had controlled a large part of the criminal underworld in the South Bronx. He had taken over the family business after a violent ambush claimed his father's life 5 years earlier. That Tuesday morning, wearing a faded Yankees t-shirt, worn-out jeans and scuffed sneakers, he didn't look like someone who moved millions in clandestine operations, and that was exactly how he preferred it. Liam pushed through the revolving door of the bank and entered the air-conditioned environment, feeling the contrast with the humid heat of the street. The lobby was spacious, with polished marble floors and light wood-paneled walls. Some people waited in upholstered chairs, others conducted transactions at the ATMs. He approached the service counter, where a blonde receptionist in a navy blue uniform asked what he wanted. "I need to check my account balance," he said in a calm, deep voice. The woman typed something into her computer and informed him he would be helped shortly. Liam sat in one of the chairs, distractedly observing the movement around him. That's when his gaze met a woman sitting at a nearby table, analyzing documents with a concentrated expression. She had brown hair tied in a simple bun, light tan skin, and wore a black blazer over a white shirt. There was something in her posture, in the way she slightly furrowed her brow as she worked, that caught Liam's attention. A seriousness mixed with delicacy. Sophia Rossi was finalizing a credit analysis for a client when she felt a gaze on her. She looked up for a moment and saw the man in the Yankees t-shirt watching her. He quickly looked away, and she returned to her work, thinking he was just another customer waiting to be served. Minutes later, the drawling and arrogant voice of Markham Vance, the branch manager, echoed through the lobby. "Sir, what exactly are you waiting for?" Liam stood up. "I was told I would be helped to check my balance." Vance looked him up and down, with a smirk that didn't hide his disdain. He was a man in his early 40s, a prominent belly under his expensive suit, oily hair combed back, and an arrogance that oozed from every gesture. "Balance, do you have an account here?" "I do. Can you give me the number?" Liam patiently provided the details. Already used to this kind of treatment, Vance typed it into the computer, still with that ironic smile, but his expression gradually changed as the numbers appeared on the screen. The smile vanished, replaced by a visible paleness. He blinked several times, as if he couldn't believe what he was seeing. "There must be some mistake in the system," he muttered, typing again. Sophia, who had looked up upon hearing Vance's altered tone, watched the scene with growing curiosity. She knew the manager well, and his tendency to judge people by their appearance. She had witnessed similar situations before, but something about this interaction bothered her deeply. "There's no mistake," Liam said calmly. "Just check the balance and let me know. I won't be long." Vance swallowed hard, his face now red with a mixture of embarrassment and disbelief. "Mr. O'Connell, I apologize for the misunderstanding. I didn't realize you. Your account has a balance of..." He lowered his voice, but not enough for Sophia and a few other nearby employees not to hear. $12,480,000. An awkward silence fell over the room. Sophia felt her heart ache as she saw the scene. It wasn't the astronomical amount that shocked her, but the way Vance had treated this man just because of his appearance. She watched Liam, expecting to see anger, indignation, perhaps a desire to humiliate the manager in return. But what she saw was different. There was a deep resignation in his dark eyes, as if he were too tired to care, as if this were just another episode in a long series of humiliations he had simply accepted as part of his life. "Thanks for the information," Liam said, taking his documents back. "That's all I needed." He turned to leave, but Vance, desperate to remedy the situation and fearing the consequences of offending such an important client, began stammering out offers. "Mr. O'Connell, please. We can talk in my office, offer you some coffee, discuss investments, applications." "It's not necessary," Liam replied without turning back, walking towards the exit. Sophia couldn't contain herself. She stood up from her table, ignoring Vance's disapproving look, and caught up with Liam before he went through the revolving door. The rain was still falling outside, now heavier. "Excuse me," she called, lightly touching his arm. Liam turned, surprised. Up close, she noticed he had very expressive eyes, despite his tired appearance. There was a sharp intelligence in them, but also a sadness she couldn't comprehend. "I just wanted to apologize for my colleague's behavior," Sophia said, feeling her own cheeks flush slightly. It was completely inappropriate and disrespectful. "You didn't deserve to be treated that way." Liam was silent for a few moments, just watching her. He wasn't used to genuine kindness, especially from strangers. In the world he lived in, every gesture had an ulterior motive, every word was calculated. But there was something in the way this woman looked at him, without fear, without apparent interest, just with sincere empathy, that completely disarmed him. "Thank you," he finally said, his voice a little softer. "But you don't have to apologize for him. Still, I feel obligated to offer better service." Sophia took a business card from her purse. "I'm Sophia Rossi, a credit analyst. If you ever need any banking assistance, feel free to contact me directly." Liam accepted the card, his fingers briefly brushing against hers. "Liam O'Connell, and I'll remember that." They looked at each other for another moment under the fluorescent light of the bank, while outside the rain drummed on the asphalt. There was something in that fortuitous meeting, an inexplicable connection that neither of them could understand, but that both felt pulsating in the air between them. Liam put the card in his pants pocket and left, leaving Sophia standing there, feeling a strange flutter in her chest that she couldn't explain. In the following days, Liam returned to the bank 3 times, always with plausible excuses, questions about investments, international transfers. But Sophia realized he could have handled all of it over the phone or online. He wanted to see her, and she, to her own surprise, anxiously awaited these visits. On one of these occasions, after a meeting that extended longer than necessary, Liam invited her for coffee. Sophia hesitated for a moment, remembering the bank's policies on relationships with clients, but something stronger compelled her to accept. They went to a small coffee shop 2 blocks from the bank, a cozy place with rustic wooden tables and the aroma of freshly ground beans in the air. They sat near the window, watching the bustling city outside. "Have you always worked in banking?" Liam asked, stirring sugar into his coffee. "Since I graduated with a business degree 4 years ago. It wasn't exactly my dream, but it's a stable job." Sophia took a sip of her cappuccino. "And you? What do you do?" "Liam?" He took a moment to answer, choosing his words carefully. "I manage the family business. My father passed away a few years ago, and I took over the responsibilities." "That must be hard," she said sincerely, "to carry that kind of weight so young." Liam looked at her with an intensity that made her blush. No one had ever noticed the weight he carried. To the criminal world, he was just the heir who had taken the throne. To society in general, he was invisible. But this woman, without knowing anything about his real life, had managed to see something no one else saw. "It's hard," he admitted, his voice low, "especially when you didn't choose this path." Sophia wanted to ask more, but something in his tone made her hold back. There were territories he wasn't ready to share yet, and she respected that. The conversation flowed to lighter topics. Sophia told him about her childhood in Queens, about how she had studied at night while working during the day to help her family. Liam listened to her with total attention, asking questions that revealed a genuine interest. He carefully told her about his own childhood, omitting the criminal details, but revealing the loneliness, the constant pressure, the feeling of never belonging anywhere. "Have you ever felt like you're living someone else's life?" Liam asked suddenly, his eyes fixed on his coffee cup. "Like you wake up every day and put on clothes that weren't made for you, but you have to wear them anyway?" Sophia pondered the question. "Sometimes. When I wake up at 5 in the morning to catch a crowded bus, when I see my college friends traveling the world while I count every penny to pay my mum's bills. Yes, sometimes I feel like my life could have been different. But then I look at my mom, at my brother, and I realize I'm exactly where I need to be." "You have a strength that I admire," Liam said. "An ability to accept your fate without bitterness. And are you bitter?" "I am." The answer came quickly, raw. "I'm angry about things I can't change, about choices that were made for me before I was even born. But I'm learning that holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die." Sophia reached her hand across the table, lightly touching his fingers. The gesture was so natural, so spontaneous, that they were both surprised. "Maybe we can learn from each other. I can teach you to accept. You can teach me to question." Liam intertwined his fingers with hers, feeling a peace he hadn't experienced in years. It would be an honor. They sat there talking until the sun began to set, painting the New York sky in orange hues. The barista was already arranging the chairs, casting discreet glances at the couple who seemed oblivious to the time. When they finally stood up to leave, neither of them wanted the moment to end. "Can I take you home?" Liam offered. Sophia thought about her reality, the simple apartment where she lived with her mother and brother on the outskirts of the city, so far from the world she imagined was his. "I live far away, in Queens. I don't care about the distance." But she saw a vulnerability in his eyes that touched her deeply. He was opening up, trusting her in a way that was probably rare in his life. She didn't want to scare him with the rawness of her reality. "Not yet. How about we meet again tomorrow? There's a free art exhibit at the Met. I've never been to one." Liam's eyes lit up. "I've never been either. Shall we discover it together?" And so it began. Meetings that became daily, conversations that deepened, comfortable silences that spoke more than words. Liam discovered in Sophia an anchor for his lost humanity. She discovered in him a fascinating complexity, layers and layers of experiences that he revealed gradually. Like someone unwrapping a delicate gift, afraid of breaking it, the conversations became frequent. Coffees after work, walks along Fifth Avenue, a trip to Central Park on a sunny Sunday. Liam found himself increasingly fascinated by Sophia. She had a quiet strength, a determination that showed in every gesture. When she told him about her routine, waking up at 5 in the morning to take 2 buses to the bank, getting home at 8 at night to care for her diabetic mother and help her younger brother with his studies, he felt a deep admiration. Sophia was also enchanted. Liam was different from any man she had ever known. He had an intriguing complexity, a sharp intelligence disguised under simple manners. He truly listened when she spoke, asked genuine questions about her dreams and fears, and showed a care for her that went beyond obvious romantic interest. A month after their first meeting, during a simple dinner at a sushi place in Midtown, Liam made an offer that left her speechless. "Let me help you with your mother's expenses," he said naturally. "I know diabetes treatment isn't cheap, and you shouldn't have to carry that alone." Sophia felt her pride flare up. "Liam, I can't accept that. I barely know you and—" "Yes, you do," he interrupted gently. "You know me better than most people who have been around me for years. And I'm not offering out of pity. I'm offering because I care about you, Sophia, because I want to make your life easier in some way." She shook her head, her eyes welling up. "That's very generous of you, but I can't. I learned to manage on my own." Liam didn't insist at that moment, but Sophia noticed in the following weeks that the pharmacy where her mother picked up her medication began to offer inexplicable discounts. She suspected his intervention, but when she confronted Liam, he just smiled and changed the subject. What neither of them knew was that this growing closeness did not go unnoticed by dangerous eyes. Sal Moreno, Liam's right-hand man in the organization and a trusted figure since the days of old Michael O'Connell, watched with growing concern the boss's involvement with this woman. On a Thursday night, he called a discreet meeting in an abandoned warehouse in the East Bronx. "Liam, we need to talk about your recent distractions," said Sal, a burly man of 50 with scars that told violent stories. "That's none of your business, Sal," Liam replied coldly, lighting a cigarette. "It is my business when you start exposing yourself, creating vulnerabilities. This girl from the bank, you think no one's noticed? You think the Vegas aren't paying attention?" The Vegas were the rival organization, led by Julio Vega, a cruel man who had been trying to expand his territory for months. The mention of the name sent a chill down Liam's spine. "She has nothing to do with our business," Liam said, his voice tense. "That's exactly why she's dangerous. She's a weak spot, Liam, and weak spots get exploited." Liam knew Sal was right, but the idea of staying away from Sophia was unbearable. She represented everything he had ever wanted: purity, simplicity, a life free from the chains of crime. Being with her was the only time he could breathe, the only time he didn't feel like a prisoner of his own destiny. But Sal's warning would prove prophetic sooner than they imagined. A week later, Sophia arrived home to find the door ajar. Her heart raced. She pushed the door open slowly, entering cautiously. The living room was trashed, furniture overturned, drawers pulled out. And on the sofa, tied with duct tape, was her mother, Mrs. Lucia, crying silently. "Mom," Sophia ran to her, undoing the bindings with trembling hands. "They said they'll be back," Mrs. Lucia sobbed. "They said you need to deliver a message to someone named Liam O'Connell, that he knows what to do if he wants you to be okay." Sophia felt the world spin. Liam. What did he have to do with intruders in her home? What kind of people did he know who would do something like this? She called Liam immediately, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and anger. "I need to talk to you. Now." They met in a park near Sophia's house, under the yellowish light of the street lamps. Liam arrived minutes later, his face tense with worry. "What happened? Are you okay? What happened?" Sophia faced him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Intruders broke into my house, Liam. They tied up my mother, and they said you know what to do. So explain to me, for God's sake. What kind of people do you know? What is this family business?" Liam felt the floor fall out from under him. This was the moment he had always feared, the time when the truth would come out and destroy everything. "Sophia, I can explain, but you need to hear me out. Then explain." He took a deep breath, his hands shaking slightly. "My family's business isn't legal. My father was. He was a leader in organized crime. He controlled operations in the South Bronx, trafficking, money laundering, extortion. When he died, I inherited everything. Not because I wanted to, but because there was no choice. That's how it works in this world. You inherit or you die. Sophia took a step back as if she'd been punched. Are you telling me you're a criminal? I'm telling you I was forced to take on a legacy I hate. I never wanted this life, Sophia. I spent the last 5 years trying to minimize the damage, trying to turn the business into something less violent, but it's a slow process. And now my enemies have found out about you. They're using you to pressure me. Using me how, Liam? What do they want? They want territory, they want power. And they think they can break me by threatening the people I care about. He took a step towards her, but Sophia backed away. I swear I will protect you and your family. I will handle this. You'll handle it? Her voice came out harsh. How? By killing people, by making more dirty deals. Liam, I fell in love with you thinking you were, I don't know, maybe mysterious, maybe troubled, but I never imagined that. That I was a criminal, he completed bitterly. Don't put words in my mouth. Sophia ran her hands over her face, trying to process everything. I need time. I need to think. We don't have time, Sophia. These people don't play around. If you don't let me protect you, protect me how? By turning me into a prisoner? By bringing me into your world? If necessary, yes. The tense silence stretched between them, filled only by the distant sounds of the city. Sophia looked at the man she had loved and saw in him both the gentle Liam she knew and the dangerous stranger who had just been revealed. I'm going to a friend's house with my mom and my brother, she said finally. I'm going to think about all of this. But don't look for me, Liam. Not until I decide if I can handle this truth. Liam wanted to argue, wanted to beg her to stay where he could protect her, but he knew Sophia well enough to know that forcing her would be the definitive end to any chance they had. All right, he said, his voice hoarse, but please call me if anything happens. Anything, Sophia. She nodded briefly and walked away, leaving Liam alone in that park, feeling as though he had just lost the only thing that truly mattered in his life. The following days were hell for both of them. Sophia tried to process the revelation while dealing with the constant fear that the intruders would return. Liam, for his part, mobilized all the resources at his disposal to track down who had invaded Sophia's home and why. The answer came through Sal, who obtained a crucial piece of information. Julio Vega was planning a bigger move. He didn't just want territory, he wanted to destroy Liam completely, and to do that, he had kidnapped Mrs. Lucia as she was returning from a doctor's appointment. When Sophia received the call with a distorted voice telling her that her mother was in their hands and that she had 24 hours to convince Liam to surrender, she broke down. All her doubts, all her pride, all her moral conflict dissolved in the face of the brutal reality. Her mother was in danger because of her relationship with Liam. She called him, her voice shattered by sobs. Liam, they have my mother. They said they'll kill her if you don't surrender. Liam was in a meeting with Sal and other trusted members when he answered. The blood froze in his veins. Where are you? I'm coming to get you now. Half an hour later, Sophia was sitting in a safe room Liam kept in a discreet commercial building in Midtown. He knelt in front of her, holding her trembling hands. Look at me, Sophia. Look at me. He waited until her eyes, red from crying, met his. I will bring your mother back. You have my word. How? By surrendering? They'll kill you, Liam. I'm not going to surrender. I'm going to negotiate. I'm going to use everything I have. I'm going to do whatever it takes, but I won't let them harm her. Sal, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed, intervened. Liam, you know you can't trust Julio Vega. If you go to negotiate, he'll... I know what he'll try to do, Liam cut in without taking his eyes off Sophia. But I have no choice. In the hours that followed, as Liam and his team devised a risky plan, Sophia remained in that room, observing a world she had never imagined existed. Men came and went, speaking in code, checking weapons, coordinating movements, and at the center of it all was Liam, commanding with a natural authority that was both fascinating and terrifying. She began to understand, in those moments of extreme tension, that the man she loved was far more complex than she had imagined. Yes, he was part of a criminal world, but he was not a monster. He was someone trying to survive in impossible circumstances, someone who hadn't chosen this destiny, but who carried his responsibilities with a weight few could bear. At one point, during a break in the strategic discussions, Sophia approached Sal. The burly man observed her with a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. "How long have you known Liam?" she asked, her voice still trembling but with a growing firmness. Sal crossed his arms, weighing whether to answer. "Since he was 15. I knew his father before that. And do you think that he's a good person?" The question made Sal let out a bitter laugh. "A good person? In this world, there are no good people, miss. There are survivors and there are the dead. But if you're asking me if Liam is different from his father, if he has something inside him that's still worth something, then yes. He's the only person I know in this life who still has trouble sleeping after making certain decisions. And that, in this business, is as close to goodness as you're going to find." Sophia absorbed those words, feeling a new understanding form. Liam wasn't simply good or evil. He was human, trapped in a web he hadn't woven, but from which he couldn't escape alone. "He needs someone who believes he can be more than this," Sophia said, more to herself than to Sal. "Maybe," Sal replied with a weary sigh. "But believing won't protect him from a bullet, miss. In this world, faith isn't a bulletproof vest." "Then we'll make sure he doesn't need one," Sophia said, with a determination that surprised them both. When Liam returned to the room, carrying the weight of the operation to come, Sophia stood up and went to him. Without a word, she hugged him tightly, feeling the tension in his muscles, his racing heart beating against her ear. "You're not alone in this," she whispered. "No matter what happens, you're not alone." Liam wrapped his arms around her, closing his eyes and allowing himself for a brief moment to feel that connection, that support he had never had in his entire life. The operation was planned for the early morning. Liam would negotiate an exchange at an abandoned warehouse near the river, valuable information on smuggling routes in exchange for Mrs. Lucia. Of course, Julio was planning an ambush, and Liam knew it, but he had his own plans. Before leaving, Liam approached Sophia. "If something goes wrong—" "Don't say that," she interrupted, grabbing his arm. "If something goes wrong," he repeated firmly, "Sal will take you to a safe place outside of New York. You'll have enough money to start over with your family." "I don't want money, Liam. I want you alive. I want my mother back. I want—" Her voice broke. Liam held her face in both hands, his dark eyes piercing hers. "You want what, Sophia? Say it. I want us to have a chance, a real chance, away from all of this." He kissed her then, with urgency and desperation, as if it were the last time. "And maybe it was. Then I'll make it happen. Somehow I'll get us out of this life." The operation was as dangerous as they expected. The warehouse was surrounded by Julio's men, who had no intention of honoring the deal. But Liam had positioned his own men strategically, and more importantly, he had contacted an FBI agent with whom he had a fragile agreement. The exchange turned into a shootout when Julio tried to execute Liam after confirming the information was real. But at that moment, the warehouse lights flared on, sirens cut through the night, and the FBI stormed the place. In the ensuing confusion, Sal managed to rescue Mrs. Lucia, who was tied up in a back room, scared but unharmed. Liam was detained along with Julio and his men, but there was a crucial difference. He had a deal. Sophia only learned the details days later, when she was finally able to visit Liam in an interrogation room. He was pale, tired, but alive. "Your mother is fine," was the first thing he said. some bruises, but nothing serious. Sophia sat across from him, separated by a cold metal table. "What's going to happen to you?" Liam took a deep breath. "I made a deal with the FBI. I'm going to cooperate, give them everything I know about the operations, help dismantle the organization from the inside. In return, I get partial immunity and a chance to start over. And will that work? I don't know. But it's the only chance we have to get out of this life. It will take months, maybe years. I'll have to testify against dangerous people. I'll have to hide. I'll have to give up everything I know. But if it means a chance at a real life with you, it's worth it." Sophia felt the tears stream down her face. "You would do that? Give up everything?" "I already gave up my soul a long time ago, Sophia. But with you, I found a reason to try to get it back." The following months were the hardest either of them had ever faced. Liam remained in protective custody while he cooperated with the authorities. Sophia continued to work at the bank, but under constant surveillance as there were threats of retaliation from remaining members of the organization who saw Liam as a traitor. They saw each other when possible, always under escort, always with limited time. But in these brief encounters their love grew stronger. Sophia discovered a courage in herself she never knew she possessed. She faced threats, moved 3 times, learned to live with constant fear, but never wavered in her decision to stand by Liam's side. The transition period was brutal. Sophia had to resign from the bank when the threats became too explicit. Vance, ironically, was the one who helped her get a good severance package, perhaps still carrying the guilt of how the whole story began. Mrs. Lutia spent weeks recovering from the trauma of the kidnapping, having recurring nightmares that made her wake up screaming. Leo, Sophia's brother, had to temporarily drop out of college when they discovered he was being followed. The entire family was relocated to a safe house in a suburb, a discreet house in a middle-class neighborhood where no one knew them. Sal, who had also decided to cooperate with the authorities in exchange for a reduced sentence, visited them occasionally, bringing news of Liam and ensuring security measures were being maintained. "He's holding on thinking of you," Sal told Sophia on one of these visits as they had coffee in the small kitchen. In the interrogations, when they push too hard, when they try to make him waver, he closes his eyes and it's like he's drawing strength from somewhere inside him. "I know it's you who's keeping him on his feet." Sophia held the cup with both hands, seeking warmth from the contact. "I think about him all the time too. I wake up wondering if he's okay. I go to sleep wondering if we're really going to get out of this." "You will," Sal stated with surprising certainty, "because you too have something most of us never had, a real reason to want to live differently. It's not about escaping punishment or dodging death. It's about building something worthwhile." Sal's words proved true, but the road was long and painful. "Why don't you give up on me?" he asked during one of those visits, sitting in a safe house where he was temporarily lodged. "Because I saw who you really are, Liam. I saw the man who risked everything to save my mother. I saw the man who is destroying his own world for a chance to live honestly. How could I give up on someone like that?" The process culminated in a trial that lasted for weeks. Liam testified against powerful figures in the New York organized crime scene, revealing corruption schemes that reached from police officers to influential politicians. He was threatened, called a traitor, had his life exposed in the most brutal way. But he stood firm, looking at Sophia in the audience whenever he needed the strength to continue. In the end, Julio Vega and dozens of other criminals were sentenced to long prison terms. The organization Liam's father had built over decades was dismantled, and Liam, fulfilling his deal, received immunity in exchange for his collaboration, but on the condition that he live under a new identity far from New York. A year and a half after that rainy Tuesday when they first met, Liam and Sophia found themselves in a small rented house in Chicago. He was now Ryan Stevens, working as a security consultant for companies, using his knowledge of the criminal world to protect legitimate businesses. She had become Brianna Olson and had opened a financial consulting firm for low-income families. Mrs. Lucia lived with them, her health finally stable with the proper treatment they could now afford. Sophia's brother Leo was studying engineering at a state university, he finally having the opportunity he had always deserved. On a Saturday afternoon, under the blue Chicago sky, Liam and Sophia got married in an intimate ceremony in their backyard. Only Sophia's family was present, along with Sal, who had served his time and also started a new life, acting as Liam's witness. "Do you take Ryan Stevens to be your husband?" the justice of the peace asked. Sophia looked at the man in front of her. He wore a simple suit, but he looked more handsome than ever, his eyes shining with a genuine happiness she had never seen before. He was no longer Liam O'Connell, the heir to a criminal empire. He was Ryan Stevens, a man who had chosen to start over, who had fought for this chance to live honestly. "I do," she said, her voice firm and clear. "And do you take Brianna Olson to be your wife?" Liam or Ryan smiled. "I do, today and always." When they kissed, sealing the impossible union born amidst chaos and a clash of worlds, they both knew the road ahead would still have challenges, living under new identities, always looking over their shoulder, never completely free from the past. But they also knew they had achieved something precious. The freedom to love each other openly, to build a life based on truth, not on lies and secrets. That night, as the small party continued in the garden with soft music and family laughter, Liam took Sophia for a walk through the quiet neighborhood. The tree-lined streets of Chicago were so different from the frantic avenues of New York. "Do you miss it?" she asked, intertwining her fingers with his. "New York? Sometimes. The life I had? Never." He stopped and turned to her, the streetlight casting soft shadows on their faces. "You know what I discovered, Sophia? That freedom isn't having power, it's not having money, it's not controlling territories. Freedom is being able to sleep at night without fear of being betrayed. It's waking up next to someone you love without having to hide who you are. It's being able to dream about tomorrow." Sophia touched his face tenderly. "And what do you dream of for tomorrow, Ryan Stevens?" He smiled, using the new name with growing ease. "I dream of a simple life, maybe a child or two, a dog perhaps. Quiet Sundays in the park, dinners with the family, things that most people find normal but which are extraordinary to me because I never had them." "Then let's build that together," she said, kissing him softly, "day by day, brick by brick, until we have the life we deserve." And that's exactly what they did. The following years brought challenges, moments of fear when some news from New York reminded them of the past, occasions when they had to move as a precaution. But they also brought unimaginable joys. Adapting to the new life was gradual and not always easy. Liam sometimes woke up in the middle of the night, sweating, dreaming of the old tense meetings, of the impossible decisions he had to make. Sophia would hold him in those moments, whispering words of comfort, reminding him that that man no longer existed, that Ryan Stevens was real and had the right to live in peace. They created small rituals that helped them feel they had truly started over. Every Friday night, they prepared a special dinner together, trying new recipes, laughing when something went wrong. On Sundays, they walked through Lincoln Park, watching other families, imagining what their own would be like when they had children. Sophia's financial consultancy started modestly, but her dedication and genuine empathy for her clients quickly earned her a reputation. She mainly served low-income families, helping them organize budgets, get out of debt, and dream of small achievements that seemed impossible. Every time she saw a client cry with joy for being able to pay the month's bills or save money for their children's school supplies, Sophia felt she was making a real difference. Liam, in turn, discovered that his knowledge of the criminal underworld had value in the legal market. Companies hired his consultancy to assess security vulnerabilities, to understand how criminals thought and acted. He helped a supermarket chain reduce theft losses by 60%, designed security systems for jewelers that considered not only common thieves, but organized gangs. For the first time in his life, he was using his skills to protect instead of threaten. The birth of Maria, their first daughter, with her father's dark eyes and her mother's determined smile, marked a new chapter in their lives. When Liam first held that tiny being wrapped in blankets, he cried. They were tears he had accumulated for years, tears of relief, of gratitude, of a love so overwhelming it couldn't fit in his chest. Sophia, lying in the hospital bed, watched the man who had once been feared by so many, now vulnerable and completely surrendered to a 7-pound child. Leo's graduation was another moment of celebration. The whole family attended the ceremony, with Liam feeling a special pride for having helped finance the studies of the young man who had become like a younger brother to him. The full recovery of Mrs. Lucia, who could finally live without pain and fear, brought a peace to the family that had seemed impossible just a few years before. Liam proved to be a devoted father, determined to give his daughter everything he had been denied: security, unconditional love, the freedom to choose her own path. Sophia flourished in her consultancy, helping dozens of families organize their finances, feeling fulfilled in a way her job at the bank had never provided. 5 years after their wedding, on a Sunday morning, they were in Lincoln Park with Maria, who was running after pigeons with crystal-clear laughter. Sophia, 6 months pregnant with their second child, was sitting on a bench next to Liam, watching the scene. "Do you believe we made it?" she asked, her hand on her rounded belly. Liam pulled her closer, kissing her hair. "We made it because you never gave up on me. When I was just a criminal in your eyes, when you had every reason to run, you chose to see beyond the circumstances and believe in the man I could be. It wasn't just me," Sophia protested. "You were the one who made the hard choices. You were the one who risked everything. I did it because you gave me a reason to want to be better. Before I met you, I was just existing, playing a role I hated. You showed me it was possible to truly live." Maria ran back to them, holding a yellow flower she had plucked from the grass. "For Mommy," she announced proudly. Sophia accepted the flower, laughing. "Thank you, my love. It's beautiful." Liam lifted his daughter into his arms, spinning her around until she shrieked with joy. At that moment, watching him play with Maria, his eyes filled with a pure and true love, Sophia knew that all the battles, all the fears, all the sacrifices had been worth it. They had proven that even the most impossible circumstances could be overcome when two souls decided to fight together. That love, when genuine and strong enough, could transform destinies and rewrite stories. That a man born in the shadows of crime could find the light, and that a woman from a humble background could be the force that guided him to it. As they walked back home, Maria asleep in her father's arms, Sophia looked up at the blue Chicago sky and silently gave thanks for that chance encounter in a New York bank branch on a rainy Tuesday in March. She was thankful for having had the courage to see beyond appearances, to believe in the impossible, to fight for love even when everything conspired against them. And Liam, feeling the gentle weight of his daughter in his arms and Sophia's hand in his, finally understood what it meant to be free. It wasn't the absence of a dark past, for that would never completely leave him. It was the presence of a future full of promise, built on the solid foundation of true love, of redemption won with blood and tears, and the certainty that, no matter what tomorrow brought, they would face it together. The story that began under the shadows of power, between the cold marble of a bank and the outer borough streets of New York, had found its happy ending on the quiet streets of Chicago, proving that even the most unlikely destinies can converge when guided by love, the courage to change, and the determination to build a worthy life, no matter where you come from, but where you choose to go. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring you videos every day that will make your life happier. Comment what you thought of my story with a rating from 0 to 10, and thank you very much.